finally they've done something. It was 15 days since Aaron Rodgers suffered his ruptured Achilles tendon, and they had signed no one. It was Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle. That's it. And they were calling up Tim Boyle from the practice squad every week, and that's it. They tried to sign Brett Rippon from the Rams practice squad. He opted to go to the Rams active roster instead after Stetson Bennett ended up on the non-football illness list. So that was all they tried to do. Yesterday, Trevor Siemian added to the practice squad. And Trevor Siemian was with the Jets once upon a time, suffered an injury early in the year, and was gone, opening the door for Sam Darnold and seeing ghosts and all of that kind of stuff. And it may have been Sam Darnold's second year, but regardless, I think he played when Darnold was injured. Remember, Darnold had mono. It was like always something. It's always something with the Jets. One thing or another, there's just some weird thing that hovers over the team, and when the fans have no patience at all, it makes it harder for the team to get out of it. Regardless, Siemian is back. He was with the Bengals during training camp and preseason, didn't make the roster. He has played for the Broncos, Bears, Saints, Titans, and Vikings in his career, and he was the guy. I remember after Peyton Manning retired, Brock Osweiler went to Houston the year after the Broncos won the Super Bowl, and we didn't know who the quarterback of the Broncos was going to be. I remember hearing, hey, they really like this Trevor Siemian kid from Northwestern who was a 7th-round pick. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He was on that team in 2015 as QB3, and there's his career since then. He's played at least one game every year from 2016 through 2018, and then each of the last 2 seasons. Didn't play at all in 2019 or 2020, but he was on like the Vikings roster, I think, one of those years. So he's back with the Jets. And I don't know where he fits in on the depth chart, but it doesn't strike me, Myles, as a guy who is going to be a threat to Zach Wilson. But he at least gives them a better break glass in event of emergency option than Tim Boyle.
Well, yeah, and he's another set of veteran eyes. And, we were just talking about the fact that Aaron Rodgers isn't there yet. So there's at least something that Trevor Siemian can bring to the table, right? Whether it's helping the defense prepare as a scout team quarterback, it's being in the quarterback room as a veteran set of eyes who has seen things, right? Who was, playing games, starting games when Zach Wilson must have been in middle school or something, right? So there is a level of veteran presence that Trevor Siemian can bring that they don't necessarily have on that roster. And that's good. But yeah, it's not like, Trevor Siemian's going to come in and he's going to save the day. I mean, I don't know that anybody can really come in there and do that, in part because you don't really have a quarterback that's out there that has experience with Nathaniel Hackett and his offensive scheme. I mean, yeah, Russell Wilson, but it's not like that's a realistic trade option. I mean, Blake Bortles is another guy. Like, is that really realistic? I don't think so. So, it's not the worst thing in the world, right? It's not the most exciting thing. Does it help the Jets? It actually might, but not in ways that, we're all going to be like, oh my gosh, this is so good. But I mean, at this point, when Aaron Rodgers goes down, I think of Tony Soprano. Like, what are you going to do? I don't know. Like, this is at least something that can maybe help them a little bit.
I think the fact that they signed him at some level is a message to anyone out there who wanted them to do something / anything. There isn't anything we can do. The best we can do is sign Trevor Siemian. We're not trading for Kirk Cousins. I think Tony Gonzalez tries to manifest that every Thursday night on the Amazon pregame show. They're not trading for Kirk Cousins. They don't have the draft capital to trade for Kirk Cousins. And then what do you do? Well, I wouldn't have a problem with it if they did, but it would be Nick Mullins in Minnesota. I mean, the Vikings aren't far away from getting to, 8-9 when it's all said and done. And that's the Vikings motto, just good enough is good enough. But if you trade Kirk Cousins, you're just giving up on the season after 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. So that's not going to happen. And even if they were inclined to do it, the Jets don't have the resources to make it happen. Everybody who has a backup needs their backup. They're not going to hand their backup over. The Colts wouldn't have handed Gardner Minshew over. Then what would they have done without Anthony Richardson? You got to look at the teams with 3 quarterbacks. And even then, they're not going to give up that third quarterback for nothing. It's an opportunity to squeeze, like the Eagles squeezed the Vikings after Teddy Bridgewater was injured, and the Vikings wanted Sam Bradford, who was supposed to be the Eagles starter that year. First-round pick and a fourth-round pick later, we'll go with Carson Wentz. Not that that worked out the way the Eagles had intended, but a year later they won the Super Bowl. Yada, 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 they won the Super Bowl. So anyway, there's nothing else they can do. So I kind of like the fact that they went out and signed Trevor Siemian because it allows people to pause and say, Trevor Siemian, that's all they could do? Well, that is all they could do. And it was all they could do. Now, whether or not Siemian ends up being the quarterback anytime soon remains to be seen, but at least he's there. He's another set of eyes, another hand at the position that can be involved and maybe help Zach Wilson with his veteran experience. And if Wilson would get injured, Trevor Siemian gives you a better chance to win or not get blown off the field than Tim Boyle would, all due respect. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.